Hey everybody, welcome to First Year Foundations. You are making lots of progress. You already have group projects that sound very exciting. And so welcome to this week's First Year Foundation class. All right, so this week is about advising and setting your schedules. And so I just wanted to throw out a few ideas. We're going to have an online talk where you can log in and talk to me, ask me questions if you have any. I want to stress that people get really worried about advising or about choosing their classes, and it's really not that hard. I'll show you, and I'll make sure you check out the Moodle page where there's a lot of information that I've put up on advising. But basically, all you have to do is you look at your major. I hope you have a major, and if you don't, then that's step one, is figure out what your major should be. You might have a minor, same applies. And so you can find out what's required, in what order, and then you just take it in that order. So I'm the chair of communication studies, for example. I know, and I can tell you, and Rupert wants to tell you, hold on a second. So this guy's scratching at the door. He really wanted to say hi. He has told me that he will do a trick for you if you do a good job on choosing your classes. So Rupert promises that he will show you one of his famous tricks if you do a good job choosing the right classes. So to choose the right classes, you look at your major and possibly your minor, and then you just see what order. So in communication studies, you take intro to media and intro to human communication before you take theory. And then once you take theory, because it's a prerequisite, you take theory, then you take methods. Then once you take methods, eventually you take capstone, and it goes in that order. So you want to make sure that you're not waiting until the last minute to take one of those intro classes, because then you can't get into theory class. Rupert gets really frustrated about this. Ugh. Yeah. So you want to take classes in order, and the only way that you can take them in order is by figuring out what that order is. And oh man, that's my microphone guy. Anyway, take them in the right order. So check out what's probably an introductory class, then a upper level, and see if there are prerequisites. It sounds like a lot, but it's super simple, especially if you're in the same minor. Like once you've looked at this as a communication studies student, you don't really have to look at it again, although obviously you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way. But yeah, you just have to make sure you take the intro class before the theory class, and then the theory class before the methods class, and then the methods class before the capstone class. And that's a 4-year program, so it's not too hard to do. Yeah, and then the core, and the other part is the core. So the core requires that you take, for example, a psychology class, art class, and music class, or some variation. You want to make sure you take an art style class, and then a critical thinking style class, and then an English class. So the sooner you get that out of the way, the sooner you can take the cool non-prerequisites like popular culture, which I teach, and other things. So anyway, you want to make sure you do the best you can. I'm here to answer questions. It's a good idea to talk to Caroline and anyone else who's gone through this, because they probably know more. Okay, buddy. They definitely know more about what it's like to be a student doing this. I don't pick your classes for you. Even if I'm your advisor, all I do is say, you're on the right track, or you should be doing this, or have you thought about, maybe finishing this before you start this? I'm here for advice, not to choose your class for you. So please don't come to me and say, what classes should I take? Because then I'll just tell you to figure it out. Maybe other people do it differently, but that's kind of my policy. Is you come to me, you say what classes you think you should take or you want to take, and I'll tell you, that sounds good to me, or hey, you really ought to take intro to something before you take the advanced level, which again, stuff is obvious and it's pretty easy. So don't worry too much. Just check those lists and you'll see how to access those lists on Moodle, and you'll be all good. Now, for first year foundations, in addition to the advising stuff, what I want you to do this week is think about your group projects. All of them sound really good in terms of what they're looking at. Some are more specific so far than others, and so you might want to think a little bit more specifically about what you actually want to achieve, what you actually want to produce, where you're actually getting this information. I know it's not always fun to work in groups, but most of the working world is made out of groups, unless you're going to be working on your own for the rest of your life, in which case, start now. Why are you in college? I'm joking, sort of. Anyway, you want to ask yourself, what would an A project look like? So some of you want to do presentations, or some of you want to do information sessions, and some of you want to maybe do some kind of essay or information, collected as a text. Whatever you want to do, I want you to ask yourself and try to step back and think objectively, like, I'm the professor in this, I have to give you a grade in this, even though I can get started on how stupid grading is and how I don't like grading in general. But I do have to give you an A or a B or a C or whatever. And so what would be the difference between an A paper and a B paper? So an A paper should be excellent, but what does that mean? And maybe you're not doing a paper, maybe you're doing a presentation. So what is an excellent presentation versus a good presentation versus a satisfactory C presentation versus a garbage presentation versus an absolute failure presentation, if that's what you're doing? So I want you to think about that with a group. It'll help you, design your actual presentation or essay or whatever it is that you're doing, but it will also allow me to say, okay, you met all of these goals for an A presentation, you get an A. It's actually really simple. I'm always amazed how, most people will follow it, but there's always somebody who says, like, I'll get you 20 sources and that's an A, and then they give me 10 sources. So, it's obviously not an A, but the more that we can talk together, the more that we can figure that stuff out together, the better we'll be for, you'll be able to grade yourself, basically. You'll be able to say, we told you we would give you 20 scholarly sources, and we would give you a 5-minute presentation that is a well-structured video, or whatever the case, right? And if you do it, you get your grade. And if you don't, then you don't get the same grade, and that's kind of how it works. So I look forward to seeing these projects actually come to fruition, actually helping the community, whether that community is Young Harris College or whether it is America or the world, depending on what your scope is. Although, as I've told a few groups, try not to do a huge, crazy scope, because you simply can't do that necessarily as a first-year student in your 1 month that you have to work on this stuff. Get together with your groups, think about it, come up with something that you're passionate about and that you have a clear end in mind. That's what this is about. It's not about, grades so much, although that does play a role. It's more about what would be excellent versus what would be satisfactory versus what would be garbage. And you know this and I know this, but we need to put it in writing so that if a group does come to me and says, we tried, but we only got one source and it's a blog that I Googled 5 minutes ago, then you and I both know that you're going to fail. Whereas if you say, we said that we would look for at least 10 scholars that we could talk to about improving the use of, pesticide on campus or whatever, and we've done that, in fact, we've done more than that, then I'll probably say, great, we both know that you got an A. I look forward to seeing these things. I hope everyone does well in choosing their classes. The only challenge, I would say, the only difficult part is making sure you get up at whatever time, I don't know what it is, 7, 8, 9, whatever you're scheduled, and making sure that you click through and get your classes. Keep in mind also, when classes start up in the next term, you can usually it depends, you can't always get in, but you can also try again. So if you don't succeed in getting the class you want, it's not 100% over, and we can talk about that. And if it's in comm and you're a good student, like participating, and you're clearly motivated, then, as chair, I can usually sign a form for you. So keep that in mind, don't stress, just make sure you're taking the right classes in the right order, and let me know what you think an A, B, C, and F project would be. I don't really care about D, because that's kind of in the middle and it's not so important. Do that once as a group, so just one submission this week, and then make sure you're set up for advising. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye.